Hello, welcome to the new video. This time we are playing Dimir Rogues. I really enjoy playing this archetype and especially with Rogues as I really like their instant speed uh, ability to play them end of turn if you don't counter anything or don't have any other plays, and also into the story. So most controllers play Memory Deluge, which is a great card, but into the story is like 4 mana, draw 4 cards. It's the best possible card advantage in, in like in maybe in format, except for expressive iteration, but only this deck can play this card only if you play it with rogues. Otherwise, it's too slow. It takes too long to get 7 cards into opponent's graveyard. But in this deck, it's pretty easy. One Soaring Toad Thief or few Thieves Guild Enforcers do the job. Okay, so I've been playing this archetype for a while now, and I played all possible versions of this deck. I played aggro, full rogues. I played Slither Wisp version. I played versions similar to this, controlish, but with more creatures. And this version seems like the best to me from all the versions I played so far. Okay, so first let's go through the meta base. Meta base is really good, so it's not really that much painful. We have Sunken Ruins, we have a lot of basics, we have Hall of Storm Giants, Castle Vantress, Darkleaf Shores, 7 fetches, and 4 basics through 3 duels. It's a very good mana base and it never disappoints. Okay, so as I said, we have our rogues here, 4 thieves, 4 Sorrento thief. I played, as I said, I played version with more creatures, but these 8 rogues creatures are definitely the best creatures you can play, and other stuff like Brazen Borrower, even Snapcaster, it's just not worth it. So I'm playing at the except for the rogues, I'm playing 2 copies of the best creature in best black creature nowadays in modern. It's Turak Dreadcanter. Uh, it can really do a lot of job, and it can be a very strong card, and it's a problem for 4-color piles. It's a problem for all decks playing Prismatic Ending and Solitude. And it's just a very good card to have in your deck as a 2-off. Other than that, we are playing counterspells. So 4 counterspell, 4 Archmage Charm, um, uh, that's it. And removals, 4 Fatal Push, 1 Bloodchief Thirst, 1 Murderous Cut. And except for that, we have some card draw into the story already talked about. 1 Jace the Mind Sculptor, 1 of Jace here is definitely great, and 4 Tainted Indulgence. So I often find myself in this deck like second or third Indulgence. Uh, Often just draws you cards without having to discard. It's a pretty good card in this deck, and we are playing just 2 copies of Tootsies. We don't want too much sorcery speed interaction, but these 2 copies can be excellent in many situations. Okay, so that's it. We have also 4 considers for some early card selection, and that's it. So we are trying to counter all important spells from our opponent, while jamming our creatures' instant speed if they don't cast anything, or if it's safe to cast them. We are playing one of Dress Down in main just to help with Urza Saga tokens, some um decks like Amulet Titan, and it's a decent one of card for main, and it can help in many situations. Okay, so that's it for the main. On sideboard, we have some graveyard hate, some more removal for hammer, scales, decks like that. One damnation on sideboard. We have some more, let's say, graveyard hate. We bring this in against decks that do some combo stuff, and similar like if you play Guild Enforcer early or Soaring Toe Thief, we can very quickly come to find the piece their deck is most reliant to, like Crushing Footfalls, like Living End, like Primeval Titan, stuff like that. And we can use Surgical Extraction in cases like that to remove that one significant card um, our opponent depends on. Other than that, we have some land hate, of course, some disputes. You can leave those, some Flusterstorm for Cascade decks, and one subtlety in the sideboard. Okay, so that's it. We don't have a companion. It's not possible in this build, but the deck has been performing pretty decent. I would say much better than I expected at first. And I played two leagues, both leagues ended up 4-1 with this deck. So I feel that it definitely um, has power to compete with many decks. And I only had the problem so far with the tribal decks um, like let's say humans mostly, and other strong tribal decks, but they are not played that much because of the Fury anyway, so present in the meta. So I don't think it should be a big problem for this deck. Um okay, so Murktide matchup is a bit tricky. Uh, this deck can perform pretty good against Murktide, but also it can be extremely bad in few situations, and that situations primarily are situations where your hand is kind of awkward, full of creatures like Guild Enforcer, Soaring Toad Thief, and you don't have enough interaction to counter early Murktide, or dress it down, or Murderous Cut, Bloodchief Thirst, Jace, stuff like that. So it can be, you have to be very careful in these matchups, but Murktide always struggles against control decks that play more counter spells and more card draw than they do, and we have a very strong card advantage into the story. And if we can resolve in mid game and late game, if we succeed to resolve one into the story or Jace, it will be definitely very hard for them, and they will definitely have problems beating us in the late game. We have some in a main deck. We have some options to remove Murktide, like one Murderous Cut, one Bloodchief Thirst, also Dress Down on cast, and we also Soaring Totif can block Murktide for a few turns while we are searching for some answer, and that's it, but definitely it can. We have also Tavara in the main, and on the sideboard we have disputes. We have one damnation. We have relic of progenitus, so we can board out probably a few of our creatures and go like more on control. Okay, so that will be kind of the plan. For them, just go with Relics main, Damnation main, Subtlety main, Disputes main, Flusterstorm main, and just try to go full control on them, and that worked out pretty well for me so far. Thieves Guild Enforcer, as I said, can be double-edged against them because it can enable them very early Murktide. So you have to be careful with that. So as I said, I played two leagues. Both ended up 4-1. Both were very interesting, and we are going to go through one league and check out the matches. Okay. Okay, this was the first match of the last league. Okay, playing first, keeping a very decent hand. One push, two counter spells, Soaring to Thief, exactly what we want to have here. Playing against Tron. I would definitely want to counter this early tutoring from them, so I counter the stirrings, but they resolve the expedition map. I put my Soaring Totif into play, start attacking, start doing some pressure. I had another counterspell for their card, and I was able to play another Soaring Totif. Just to start dealing them a lot of damage here, attacking for 6 per turn. Unfortunately, they played Oblivion Stone here, and I didn't have counter for that. But I scryed, find Archmage Charm on top. Pretty much what I want to find here. Unfortunately, they were able to kill both of my creatures, and I was forced to just keep countering their big mana stuff. There was no point in scrying in upkeep because I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't be able um, to cast what I find anyway. So they cast Ulamog and I concede the game. There was no point in continuing. I have one subtlety, 3 spreading seas on sideboard. Again, keeping a pretty decent hand. Consider 2 counter spells. I find spreading seas on top, and I decide to play it immediately. Unfortunately, they find another land, but I succeeded to. I succeeded to spreading seas one of their lands, and I was in okay situation. I discarded Urza Mine and Traktusk, so had a bit of luck there. But two random, that's why I played Turok. It's definitely very good against this kind of decks. I played my Enforcer end of turn, start attacking for 5, holding 2 counter spells. So pretty good position for me, but they had Blast Zone, killed the Spreading Seas, killed the Turak, and just continue playing their big mana stuff. They played Ballista, find Ulamog here. I had 2 more counter spells in hand, and played my Consider, hold counter spell for Ulamog. They killed Enforcer and Land, but I was still fine. I played Totsis. I think discarded their Ancient Stirrings. I let their Oblivion Stone resolve. I didn't care about the Oblivion Stone. I just decided to draw 2. I let them this land, let them find lands. Okay, so I was able to draw 4 cards. This card is like unbelievably powerful into the story in this deck, and I just played one of my creatures, started attacking, forcing them to use the Oblivion Stone. I had enough counter spells in my hand, and they were just playing 1 spell per turn. They find another land, put it into play. I didn't. I made a mistake that I played this end of turn, but it didn't matter. Anyway, I decided to draw more cards with the second into the story, and it was definitely all I needed here. I was able to cast another Enforcer, start attacking. No point in playing another creature. Also had a third into the story here. I had to play my subtlety here, and they had 0 cards in hand at this point, and Oblivion Stone on the field. At this point, they didn't have a solution. So I had to attack first, made them crack the Oblivion Stone so I can play my Spreading Seas. They had Karn on top, and I didn't have a counter spell at this point for Karn, so I started playing some Spreading Seas, trying to draw the counter spell. I drew so many cards, I had to find it, and I did. I find Darkmage Charm on top, and I destroyed their both Urza Towers with Spreading Seas. I just played my Turak here. They had 0 cards in hand, and I was holding my Soaring Tooth Thief. They didn't even have a throne at this point, so there was nothing they could do. They concede after I played my Soaring Tooth Thief. Okay, so game 3, playing second, keeping 1 lander, but with Consider, with the Guild Enforcer, Spreading Seas, like everything I need. I boarded out all the removal but the Murderous Cut. They played Sphere into Scrying, find all their trump pieces, and I decided to immediately go for Spreading Seas. They played Oblivion Stone, so there was no point in playing my other spells like Guild Enforcer, second Spreading Sea, stuff like that. So I decided just to uh, go start drawing cards, digging counter spells until until they crack the Oblivion Stone. After they crack the stone, I could then again start playing the Seeds, the Enforcer, and everything. Yeah, and that happened. So they got thrown on their turn 6, but I was ready with 2 counter spells. So I countered both of their spells and hold the. Sorry, I drew into Turak and discarded rest of their hand, but unfortunately they top decked Karn, so I find myself in a kind of weird situation, but I was able to spreading seas their land, and they plus the Karn. I removed one Soaring Thief because I wanted to hold Totsis in hand for Ulamog they find before. Also wanted to play both of my creatures to attack the Karn next turn. Sorry, not Ulamog, but Ballista. And I decided to discard the Traktask, left the Ballista in hand because they didn't have drones, so they could only play 2 Ballista. I played my Jace and left 2 cards on the top. In a way, I could play all of the cards in my hand in response to Karn ability, and they were forced to play the Ballista they had in hand, and I left Into the Story on top, and I decided to bounce the Ballista, and I was able to kill Karn, and I was left with a lot of creatures on the field and counterspell in hand, and that was it. So very fun game against Tron. Um, it was pretty tense games where Into the Story did incredible job, won all the matches. Okay, so I think this is Murktide match. No, it wasn't Murktide. It was the Yeskai Ragavan Blade matchup. Okay, so this deck was definitely big hit when MH2 hit the Modern, and it was one of the most popular decks for a brief period, as I remember. Okay, so my opponent was stuck on 2 lands. They had Butterskull and Caldra in hand, so they played both, and I was hoping for that because I had Charm in the hand. So I played the Charm at the beginning of combat, so they can't attack. I stayed back definitely. With Caldra, played first Thief, and I tried the Turok, but unfortunately they had Counterspell. They were still stuck on lands, so I decided to play my creatures. I probably sequenced my spells wrong. I should have killed the Butterskull token first, but I really didn't expect. The spell Pierce here. Okay, so I decided just to attack with the Soaring Thief. Unfortunately, they drew into land and killed my Jace, but again I cast Into the Story, draw 4 incredibly strong cards, and I played the Tainted Indulgence, steal steal the Caldra back, played the Tutsis, discarded their second Archmage Charm, and played my Thief Guild Enforcer, which was 5-2 at this point, and I was on too much life, and the rest of their hand was Counterspell and Jace, so nothing they could have done here. Okay, so my opponent was screwed, but it was a fair win. Okay, playing second, having again a decent hand, Fluster Storm, Push, Consider, two Charms, all very good cards. Opponent had Rest in Peace. I don't have any solution for Rest in Peace, but Otawara, but I can play. I can play. I don't care that much for Rest in Peace. I can play very easily. With Rest in Peace in the field, I just discard all my creatures. I try to steal one of their creatures or kill them with Jace. And game 2, I was stuck on lands, so it was pretty incredible. I went through a lot of my deck, and in 15 cards, I didn't find the third land. Even in 20 cards, I didn't find the third land, which is pretty incredible. My opponent didn't really have anything, so if I just had like third land, I would win almost surely. I decided to hold my counterspell here. I will surely win if I had the third land. So pretty unlucky here. My opponent countered the intelligence. I had consider, but still didn't find the land. And that was it. Next turn, my opponent find some spell, some threat, and I conceded the fairy here. That's it. Was this game 2, sorry? Yes, this was game 2. Okay, so time for game 3. Okay, again, decent hand. This is a hard control deck, but the deck can be very aggressive if you draw the right hand like this. It can be pretty aggressive. Just turn 3, start attacking for 6. It's definitely a problem for a lot of decks. And as you will see at this example, I am turn 3 in a control deck attacking uh, for 6 damage, and it's definitely a problem. Then they're tapping out. I was able to play the Turak. Then attack with Turak again, hold 3 counter spells in hand, and even after they play the Rest in Peace, it's not a problem for me to close out the game. And that was it. That was game 3. Okay, we will see this game now, and we'll save the loss for last. I can't even remember at this point what was the loss. I forgot. Didn't even see the Totsis in my hand. I should have played the Totsis first, but it was okay. Okay, sorry. It was the creativity deck. Okay, so this deck is pretty weak against control. It's almost impossible to lose here. Okay, I did the one Totsis on them, they Totsis me, but they were left with just lands in hand, and there's really not much they can do against this deck. I don't see them winning even once in like 10 games. It's pretty hard for them. I have too many counter spells for them, removal, so card draw, so every card in my deck is a problem for them. They also played badly, played poorly. They should have waited for next turn and try to go creativity on both tokens. This is just too weak. I was able to cast. I was able to cast my second Totsis, discarded their persist, left push in hand because I really don't care about their push. So I just waited then turn to play my Guild Enforcer, and it's a pretty good creature to have in a control deck. You just cast it for 1 mana and start doing some real pressure with it, and it also has death touch. I really love this creature. I played Turak to discard the remaining card in hand. It was Persist. So I killed one of the tokens with Thirst and started attacking with Turak. I played the Soaring Toe Thief to block, countered their removal, and they conceded. That was it. Okay, so game 2. Game 2, again, a pretty good hand. 2 counter spells, Indulgence. Like every hand with this deck is similar to this hand. So just holding my counter spell this turn, saving Totsis for next turn. If they don't play anything, I definitely play my Thief. They will use the removal spell, but I don't really care. I will kill them with the next creature, so I decided to discard their Fable at this point, and they were left with Fire Eyes, Push, Totsis. Um, so I didn't want to play my Turak here because it will just die. It will just die to push, and I need to be careful for creativity at this point. And also knew that they had Totsis, so I didn't want them to see my hand. They tapped out, so no creativity possible. That's why I discarded, used the 2 counter spells um, for their Totsis, and used Turok when they were tapped out. If they used push, they would lose all the cards. I was okay with it. They decided not to use push, so my Turok lived. And they did find another push for Turok, but um, I decided to hold my castle in hand, start attacking with the Soaring Toad, hold the Indulgence, hold the Counterspell, just scrying with castle, scrying 2 lands, finding mine into the story, and this card is crazy good. You just draw 4 cards, your opponent is so much behind, it's like casting 2 iterations. It was the good time to cast Turok. They had Fire and Ice here. I discarded the Totsis and Archon. I had counter spells in case they tried to do the Persist. I was able to continue attacking. I had 2 removals at this point, 2 counter spells, so they definitely don't have any chance in close. And that was it. That was the concede. And let's see game 5, and we will see the loss after. Okay, so this match was a Wish Shift. It should be really good matchup for this deck. We're playing a lot of counter spells, and they don't have. They just have Wheel of Summer, and that's it. So they have to have Wheel. If they don't have Wheel, they definitely lose. If they have Wheel, they still probably lose. So holding two counter spells and to consider at this point of the game, it's like very hard to lose. So just playing one of my counter spells and doing the double consider end of turn, finding more good cards I need. So just continue attacking, having second thought thief. It's a really good clock. So I just play one of them to block, hold one counter spell. I think, um, yeah, it's a 6 damage per turn. Pretty good clock against the shift. So I decided to counter both of their wishes because I was planning on Turak next turn, but it wasn't necessary. I have Spreading Seas in sideboard, one subtlety. So I brought those cards in, also brought in Flusterstorm. Okay, so they had bad hand game 2, but I still lost this one, I think. Not sure how. Maybe I was stuck on lands or something. Okay, continuing, I had a little pause. Okay, so end of turn, playing Indulgence, trying to find some counter spells. My opponent didn't have Balakut engraved at this point, so I decided to discard the Surgical. I didn't have Guild Enforcer or anything, so it seemed like best option at the time. I had Subtlety, so I decided to play it on Sakura, hold some card draw. I had three Soaring Tatis, sorry. So just attacking with one on the run would be lethal, so I decided not to fight it. And my opponent only had one card in hand at this point. I played both of my Ds, and after trigger, I pumped them all, and didn't have a counter spell to hold at this point. So I just played Spreading Seas. They find two Valakuts. I drew Turak and play another Spreading Seas on Valakut because it was obvious they're going to attack, and just having one card in hand means they need to top deck something good like a Bolt to win here. So I decided to risk it, but only because they had just one card in hand. And unfortunately, they did have Bolt, so yeah, it was maybe unnecessary. Sorry, it wasn't unnecessary. If I didn't play Spreading Seas, I would be dead for sure. Okay, and that was game 2, so let's check out the last game. Okay, so starting game 3 first, I'm just casting Totsis on Search for Tomorrow turn 1 because I had a counter for Explore next turn plus Thief, which seemed pretty good start at the moment. And I had Flusterstorm holding and Tainted Indulgence, and also into the story very close to casting, so I discarded Murder's Cut, my only removal in a deck at this point. So I decided to discard Flusterstorm, let them resolve the second Explore. Just cast my consider, try to find something else. Place Oriental Thief, pump the Enforcer and start attacking for a lot of damage, holding Archmage Charm and into the story for next turn. My opponent did try to resolve Titan. Luckily I had a Charm. And I drew into another Charm and I was able to attack for 6. My opponent jumped, so I put them on 8 life. And I was able to cast into the story, and you already can tell that after casting into the story, there's really low chance of opponent winning. I decided to let Sakura resolve, counter some other spell, and play my subtlety, although it wasn't needed. I had the whole of a gemstone mine, and the only card in hand was Wish at this point, so I just attack with everything, and that's it. Okay, so let's. This is the one game I lost. I played against humans. There's no even point in watching the game one because I absolutely don't have uh, almost any chance against the deck pre-board. I have chance post-board, but I kind of played poorly this matchup. I played fine all the rest of the games, but this matchup I accidentally made a mistake. It wasn't on purpose, but I didn't. I shouldn't have played this Guild Enforcer definitely here. I was in okay situation here. Had explosives, had two pushes, so pretty much very good hand. Okay, so I decided to just kill Talia here and don't use the other push. So my opponent must take fatal push from my hand. And I took too much damage from this champion. I should have just not played the Enforcer and crack explosives on one. I was just taking too much damage and just did a lot of bad plays. This turn should have just cracked the vial. I think I would have comfortably won the game if I just cracked the vial. So definitely some bad plays here, but anyway, I still didn't have much chance. I would have chance if I cracked the explosives on one, didn't play my enforcer. Just playing the enforcer made me do all the other mistakes. Playing it was a mistake. I should have held it in hand. First use the explosives on one and then play my enforcer. Okay, so that's it. Still a pretty hard matchup for this deck. I only have one donation. Post board, so I depend a lot. I depend a lot on explosives, and if they play one creature 1 mana, one creature 2 mana, one creature 3 mana, then explosives is not that good. So it's depends a lot on explosives and how many removal am I going to draw before I try to stabilize. So that's it. That's the entire league. Okay, so I was considering adding some Drown in the Luck after this league. I should I should possibly add few drawn unlocks. I want to have a counter spell before drawn unlock. Because in 4 cases, my opponent plays Rest in Peace, as you could see in league I played before. Then drawn unlock is just another card that is dead, and Draenloch can be bad against decks like Tron and Murktide sometimes. So that's the reason why I'm playing Counterspell before Draenloch. But maybe there is some space for few Draenlochs, like we could remove the Dress Down definitely. We could remove the Bloodchief Thirst and or Murderous Cut and just play two Drown Lux. I think that would be decent and uh, it would be not much different, but some additional counterspell could be valuable. As you could see, I was always digging for counterspell, and so I think the two Drown Lux could be very good. And the dress down, I didn't use dress down much, so it's definitely a first option. Maybe put it on sideboard, but first option to remove uh, for the drown. Also, I think one of Murderous Cut is pretty good, so I would rather remove the Bloodchief Thirst. And although it can kill a Planeswalker, but Murderous Cut is always 1 mana and it kills Murktide, and that's why I play it, so I think it's pretty solid. So this could be 2 slots for Drown and Loch, and I'm pretty happy about the rest of the deck. I don't feel that it's needed to play Cling to Dust here. Mm. And that's it. So these 3 cards are kind of uh, spots for changing something, probably putting Drown and Lock, as I said, and leaving the one of Murderous Cut. And Drown and Lock can also kill Murktide. They fill their graveyard very quickly, plus if you're filling them with Thieves, and they can have quite a lot of cards in graveyard, and Drowning Loch can often be used to just kill Murktide for 2 mana. And that's it. Okay, that's the deck. That were the games. Hope you like it. And that's all for this time. Bye.